Hey, Eric, have you ever told yourself you're going to do something and then you find yourself not doing it?
Steve, I wish I could say no to this, but I have done this more times than I care to remember. And I've done it in so many different areas of my life that it's, on some levels it's been discouraging, but on other ways it's a learning, like a point of learning.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a really important topic for the allied dads out there. So more on that in a moment. But first, hello, I'm Steve.
And I'm Eric. And together we are two dads with one mission.
Welcome to the Allied Dads podcast. This is the show for dads, all about fatherhood, faith, and freedom, one conversation at a time. Hey, Allied Dads, so welcome back. So Eric just talks about there was a few times in his life where he tried to do a few things and not quite got there. And we said it was a really important topic. And the reason why it's a really important topic, because underneath that, it really is about learning to trust yourself. Yeah. So Eric, learning to trust yourself, what do we mean by that?
Yeah, so to kind of go back to what I said in the beginning, when somebody, I'll just use me. When I say, just internally or out loud or whatever, and I say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and then a day or two goes by or whatever, and I don't actually do that, well, that's one thing. But if I do that to myself on a regular basis, say I want to change a habit, I want to change the way that I eat, and day after day, I tell myself, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, but I don't actually do it. After a while, subconsciously, and even consciously, I stop trusting myself, and it kind of turns into like a failure loop, where you say something, but you kind of know I'm not actually going to do that, and I've had moments in my life where I've done that for a long time. I can't say it's always a negative thing, because sometimes maybe what you're trying to change or whatever is really difficult. And so you're just struggling, and you're saying something out loud, or maybe you're writing down notes and you have post-it notes here and there to remind you to change or do the thing that you're trying to do. And it's just not working for whatever reason, which is kind of another topic, whether it's a lack of inspiration or motivation or discipline or whatever it is. But over time, when if you consistently tell yourself you're going to do something and then you don't do it, your brain, to not get into real technical parts of the brain, but your brain just stops trusting you. So what I think we want to kind of talk about in this episode is, if you find yourself in that position in life, and again, maybe it's, worst case scenario, it's like kind of everything about your life, you just don't follow through on anything you say you're going to do. Or maybe it's just one area. Maybe you decided you want to lose weight, and so you've got some behaviors you want to change, and you're telling yourself you're going to do it, but you don't. Whatever that is, we want to kind of talk about some ways to learn to trust yourself again. What about you, Steve? Have you ever had moments where you just found yourself saying things out loud? You said things you want to do, but then you don't.
Yeah, all the time. And in the past, not so much these days, but in the past, I've probably been what I would call a huge procrastinator. So it's like, I would say I'm going to do something, but then habitually, over a period of time, it just doesn't get done.
Yeah. Procrastination is like the evidence of the lack of someone trusting themselves, because, and I've talked about this in some content that I've done in the past, where if you find yourself saying, I'm going to do this, but then you don't, the key is to look at, sometimes we've talked about values on past episodes. Sometimes the things that we tell ourselves we want to do, they don't align with our values. And so then we're not inspired or motivated to do them. But then when we don't do them, we beat ourselves up over it. You know, we talk ourselves down because we're not doing the things that we say we want to do. But and so we get in this kind of negative feedback loop of, you know, I'm not adequate, I'm stupid, I'm not good, whatever it is. But in reality, it's just that the thing you're wanting to do doesn't align with your values. So
Yeah.
So I always encourage people, come back to your values, figure out what you care about, figure out who you are, and then ask yourself if the things that you're doing or wanting to do they align with those values. You know, now look, I don't love washing the dishes. You know, washing the dishes is not part of my values, but I do it because I like to eat off clean plates.
Yeah.
You know, that's a value. So but we're talking about more important things, right? Like, you know, whether it be losing weight or starting a business or being a better husband or, you know, whatever it is, we're talking about those kind of key important things in life. And you got to make sure things line up with your values. If you don't know your values, you know, again, we talked about this in a past episode. If you need help with that, reach out to either Steve or I. We can definitely point you into, you know, the direction of some resources and give you some guidance on how to figure out your values. So, you know, I think that's the key is making sure that the things you want to do line up with who you really are and what you value.
Yeah.
And then, you know, at some point, you just got to do what you say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like everything that you've said, Derek. And for me, I think there's one main idea that we wanted to share people, and that's that, you know, in order to establish and build trust with yourself, in other words, truly believe that when you say you're going to do something, your unconscious, your subconscious, you know, that inner part of you believes wholeheartedly that, you know, you're going to follow through. It's all about, you know, you have an idea, we have these thoughts, and then those thoughts become words, and it's about then turning those thoughts and words into actions. Right. In other words, taking a step, the next step towards achieving the thing that you said you're going to do. And it's just that those thoughts and words into action, that TWA, it's like between the thoughts and words, there's a moment there. I like to call it that moment of mischief. There's a moment of mischief where procrastination can set in, or some other reason. You know, and believe me when I tell you, procrastination is the thief of time. Yeah. Okay. When you procrastinate, it steals time. Right. Okay. So there's that little linchpin. Now, it is tied to the values. It's the reason why I liked what you said. But I think for me, there's a little exercise, and we can do this exercise together. And it's about you know, we need consistency in those thoughts and words in order to take the action. And those consistency comes from building that trust, knowing that what it is I'm saying, I'm going to genuinely follow up on. And what it basically is you know, there's a bit of an exercise now. So wherever you are, and, you know, if you're listening or watching the YouTube, you know, version of this podcast, follow on wherever you are in your environment, either something in the room you're in, or maybe outside of the window, there's something outside that, you know, is for the short term, at least, it's going to stand the test of time. So maybe an object, a piece of furniture inside the room you're in, or if you look outside, maybe a bush or a tree or a building, something that is outside. And
so you're creating like a reference point for future use.
Yeah, some sort of a reference point.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, when you look at that and just look at it for a moment, okay, now when you look at it, just notice how your body feels right now, and just notice what's happening on the inside, and just try to get in tune with that. Now, what I want you to do is the object that you've used as a reference point, how certain. So this exercise is called a certainty exercise. How certain are you that that object, that thing is going to be there in 1 hour from now? How certain are you? And just notice what that feels like for you. That's why this is called the certainty exercise. So in an hour's time, how certain are you going to be, you know, how that it's going to be there? And notice how that feels. And this is kind of the internal reference point. Now, how certain are you but it's going to be there 1 week from now, 1 month from now, 1 year from now, 1 decade from now? And notice, so in 10 years' time, how certain are you that it's going to be there, that reference point that you're looking at? And notice how that now feels inside. Now let's just rewind. How certain are you but the thing that you're looking at right now is going to be there in an hour's time. And it's like when we say we're going to do something, we need to have that level of certainty. Our body needs to feel so certain that it's going to be there in an hour's time. That level of certainty, that's how we turn our thoughts and words into action. Anything other than being totally certain means that maybe some other level, there is possibly some sort of an inconsistency with our values, or there is another reason why, and we just will not be motivated to take action.
Man, you know, there's some good stuff you said there. So I want to come back just a little bit. So you mentioned something that's like an acronym, TWA. Okay, and I think that's a good thing for our listeners to hold on to. Thoughts, words, and actions. If they're not lining up, it's going to lead to either procrastination or not following through on what you say you want to do. The other
and
thing
ultimately, Eric, then you won't have trust in yourself.
Right. The other thing is procrastination being the thief of time. That's just a classic truth. I'm experiencing that a little bit right now with something I'm doing in my business. I find myself procrastinating about it, and it is stealing time for sure. And then the last thing, and this is the big one for me, is because I've experienced it just recently too, where there are times in my life I'm kind of an intuitive, I'm pretty highly intuitive, and there are times where I say I'm going to do something, and then immediately in my mind I go, I'm never going to do that. And then sometimes I'll kind of battle with that, but in the end, guess what happens? That immediate intuitive thought is the thing that won out. I didn't do that thing. In some cases I did the thing, whatever it was, but it was painful. I had to like force myself to do it. It was just, it was probably the wrong thing for me to do. So because of those experiences, I've learned to just trust myself, right? I mean, that's what this whole thing's about. And there have been a lot of times where I'll say something, maybe I see something on social media, or I have a thought or whatever, and I say, I'm going to do this. And if my first thought after that is, you're never going to do that, I just embrace that and I go, you know what? That's probably right. And I just let it go.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, that really works.
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting concept there about, which I would like to just delve into a little bit about, when you say, oh, I'm never going to do that. And, it's about establishing trust requires this consistency in turning these thoughts and words into actions. And there are two main concepts, main themes, if you please, that prevents those thoughts and words of turning into action. And the first one is the classic, look, how do you eat an elephant? One piece at a time.
Right.
So often, if we think about the thing that we want to set out, and if we think about it in its wholeness, its entirety, the mind thinks it's just such a hard task. We're never going to be able to achieve that. And it doesn't provide enough of that momentum and motivation to get started. So the first thing to do is, look, you don't need to do the whole thing. You just need to do the smallest next step. Yeah. So what is the smallest next step to achieve the thing that you're trying to achieve? So for example, if it's about, losing 20 kilos in weight, okay, you don't have to think about the entirety of that. It may be as simple as researching within a 2-kilometer radius of where you are, how many gyms are they? That could be the smallest next step. Just Googling local gyms, not physically going to the gym and doing a workout and losing weight, because that can be too much if you've never been to a gym before. But look, is there a gym nearby is the smallest next step.
Yep. That reminds me of a question I don't know, I picked it up years ago, and I often ask myself, and that is, what is the next indicated thing?
Yeah. And I said there were two main kind of themes. And the second thing, so the first thing is, look, how do you eat an elephant? One small chunk at a time. It's about breaking up your overall plan, your outcome, your goal into the smallest next step, and that's the only thing you need to be focused on. What is that next step? Because then there's a step beyond the step, beyond the step, beyond the step, and when you get to the end, you will have achieved your goal. So baby steps, as we call them.
Yeah,
and the second
sometimes
thing,
that's just it. Just get started.
Yeah, and the second main thing that prevents people from getting enough momentum or inertia to get started is, they think they need to know everything. They need to know how to get there. They need to know how long it's going to take. They need to know all the steps along the way. And again, that's when that procrastination sets in.
Analysis of paralysis, or paralysis of analysis, right? Yeah,
exactly. So I've got this thing that I can say, look, just eat more ice cream. And what do I mean by just eat more ice cream? Look, if I came up with a fantastic new flavor of ice cream, you wouldn't want to know what the ingredients are. You wouldn't want to know how I made it. You wouldn't want to know all of those intricate details about the ice cream. How many
calories does it have?
You just want to taste the damn ice cream, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So just go and eat more ice cream.
Just go eat more ice cream. Well, that's a good note, I think, to end this episode on. And look, just to recap, TWA, thoughts, words, and actions. Make sure they're aligning in your life. And then look, go eat more ice cream.
Yep. One baby step, small step at a time.
All right, cool. So what are we talking about next, Steve, on our next episode?
Which is really interesting because we've had a lot of kind of questions that have come up in this episode. Right. And that is the topic that's coming up next. Questions are the answer.
Questions are the answer. I love that title. We're going to dig into questions. So if people want to find out more about us, where do they go?
Listen, just go to our website. Just open a browser and type in, www.allieddads.com. That's where you'll find a landing page, where you'll find out all of our resources, how to connect with us, how to submit your questions of things that you might want to see or hear on a future episode. We'd love to take some topics from our listeners out there.
Absolutely. All right. Awesome. Well, look, if you've gotten some value out of this content, hit the subscribe button and look for us on any podcast platform that you like to listen or use on your phone, and we'd love to bring value to your life. So thank you for being here.
Yep, look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And as Eric said there, you'll find us on your favorite streaming channels.
Yep. Take care.
Bye-bye.